Okay, guys, so we are going to get started on some upgrades to the Silverado. Now, I'm going to film as much as I can. I'll skip by some of the boring stuff that the average person already knows, but we are fixing to document this journey. So the plan is intake's coming off, the stock manifolds are coming off, the heads are coming off. And when we go to put everything back together, we should have upgraded heads, upgraded intake, injectors, headers, new throttle body. So we should be bolting on 100, give or take, 100 horsepower, properly tuned, maybe 120, 130 horsepower. And this is kind of bittersweet for me because I just took it to the track a few days ago and was having an absolute ball to it. So I actually pulled my truck in here and now I'm fixing to tear it apart to see if we can make it go faster. So it's a little bittersweet. I've had these parts hanging out for 6, 8 months, and a couple of friends of mine was like, "Hey man, let's get on with it. Let's get it done." So we're gonna start on it today. Fix to start on some of the simple things. Just basically, I get a few things out of the way. We'll take that cover off the top with 8mm bolt. Take the cold air intake off. We're probably going to redo that while we've got it apart anyway. We'll pop the belt off. I may take the fans out, not sure. I'm not going to take the fenders and the front clip off. I will be doing most of the work from inside the interior bay, and I like to sit right in here. I like to stand down there on the A-frame. So here in just a second, we will get started. Okay, guys, we're gonna start with a few simple things, just getting a few things out of the way. 8mm bolt takes this cover off, and with the new intake, the cover won't be going back on. So if somebody needs one of these, hit me up in the comments, and I'll see if I can't get it to you. This one's actually in perfect shape. A little dirty. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop this cold air off. On my particular setup, it's also an 8mm bolt. Nothing ever works on this truck like it's supposed to. Matter of fact, I expect to be doing a lot of fabricating on this thing. Every time I buy something that's supposedly bolt-on, it's never bolt-on. I've been lucky under the hood. So far, everything under the hood has bolted on like it was supposed to. But everything else, fuel pump-wise, suspension-wise, hadn't been right. Alright, so we're going to pop that loose. This is the connection to your MAF. I will be deleting this anyway. I've got an IAT sensor supposed to be here today. I'm going to run off speed density tune anyway. When I run the MAF and the speed density together, if I run one or the other, it runs okay. When I run them together, I don't know, something's just not cooperating. And I spend a lot of time trying to tune either or. But every time I bring them both back online, it doesn't work out right. I can look at my fuel trims and they'll be perfect. As soon as I bring it back online, all of a sudden the computer's trying to pull 20 grams of fuel back out. Anywho, technically this thing's actually loose. We had to rig some stuff up. My wife bought this for me, and we had to kind of rig it from the get-go. Mostly worked right, but I'll be breaking this down. I'm going to reuse this tube, and I'll reuse the filter. That's probably all I'm going to be reusing. I don't think that's going to be big enough to go over the new throttle body. It's 102. I have to do a little research and find out. Not worried about it one way or the other. I do not have to drive this thing to work for 5 or 6 days, so I'm not sweating it either way. And if I don't get it back together, people may, man, that thing looks good. I thought about putting the IAT sensor right there. Don't know. May put it at the end of this tube somewhere real close to the box. Plan on doing a custom homemade, something you can do yourself for 20-30 bucks, cold air box where you can run ice water in if you'd like. I want to compare standard IAT to the IAT through the pulling through the ice water, and I've done it in the past on carbureted engines. Not sure how this computer truck is going to react. I don't know much about. Well, that's not actually right. I've learned a lot about this, but still not sure how the computer is going to react to all that extra cold air. But I know when I roll out on this thing and it's 30 degrees outside, it runs completely different than it does if it's 80 degrees outside. So I'm assuming the computer is compensating for the cold air. So we're gonna put that to the test. We're gonna find out. We're gonna see if standard IAT versus cold air IAT makes a difference. Let's get this out of our way. Probably won't be reusing this. Anywho, all right. Next step, I'm gonna pop this belt out of the way. Me personally, I know you don't have to remove this alternator to get the intake off. Me personally, I do it. It's just one more thing out of the way. I'll have to take that bracket off too, but we'll get to that here shortly. Ooh, hate the thought of taking that bracket back off, but it is what it is. Blue collar, he ain't gonna let me off the hook on this one. Oh, I keep get it done, so we're gonna, you know, from Alabama, that's a get her done. So we're gonna get her done. All right, let's pop that belt off. All you gotta do to take your belt off, belt right here on this tensioner. Push down on it. I mean, there's really nothing to it, guys. Pop that belt off. It's easier to pop something off of a smooth pulley versus a ridged pulley. And she's loose. No muss, no fuss. Belt still looks decent. It's been eat up a little bit on the edges. Still in good shape though. Typically when I want to look at my belt, I'll take it and I'll bend it over, double it. I look for frays and cracks. I am a CDL driver and also I was a CDL instructor for quite a while. This is something you have to teach your drivers how to check their belts. I will probably replace this one. It's not bad, but I see little hairline fractures when I roll it over, but I mean it's tiny fracture. Anyway, for me, I do like to get the alternator out of the way. I know everybody's got their own way of doing this. Me personally, I'm just gonna pop the bolts out, roll the alternator to me, and disconnect everything from there. Nothing to it. You'll notice I don't use a lot of impacts. Just preference, my choice. I was taught years ago to do everything by feel. These grommets right here will actually move and put pressure against that alternator if you tighten it down. And it's definitely not going to fall off there. See, look, bolts are out. Definitely not going to fall off the truck. Let's see. Pop this guy loose. I have no idea how long this alternator's been on this truck. The whole time I've had it about 3 years now. And don't be scared, guys. You're not going to hurt anything. So this actually works for swapping your alternator too if you want. All right, so it's loose. Now, everybody has their own thought process on disconnecting the battery. A lot of people say positive. A lot of people say negative. I hate doing either because every time I disconnect my battery, when I decide to crank it up for the first time, I have to use my HP tuners, reconnect to the truck, re-put some kind of tune in it, and it really, I mean, I've had it fail before, and then it basically bricks the computer, won't do anything. So I hate doing it, but me personally, I'm gonna disconnect the negative before I ever start messing with the power on this alternator. So that's the next step. Okay, so the battery's disconnected, so I can get hold of this alternator now. We've been having trouble with rats since our neighbors moved out for the last few months. We did get us pest control folks up in here to try and deal with it. Didn't really know we had a bad problem. Then we started noticing things getting chewed up, trying to figure out what in the world's going on. My wife's brand new car actually got some wires chewed and a hose chewed, and yeah. So there are a few chewed up wires on here. I would love to replace this wiring harness. It's dry rotted here in places. Not worried about this at all because that piece of trash is, wow. Well, there's my vacuum leak. Every once in a while I can hear it. It's just not sealing good down inside the intake. Oh well. That's going in the trash anyway where it belongs. This is not California, and I don't want to be in California. No offense to everybody who lives in California. Your choice. Good luck to you. The ever elusive 10mm. I swear, one of these days I'm going to invest in stock in 10mm sockets. Because when it comes to these older vehicles like this, you can literally take it apart with a 10mm, 13mm, and a screwdriver. Alright, let's take this feed off. And you'll notice this feed here runs to the hot side of your alternator down into this junction box. This is actually a good place. Anytime you need to grab power somewhere for one of your add-ons, that's a good spot right there. Gives you a good power feed. Matter of fact, I believe that's where I ran my subs too. So there's that. And the only thing you got this clip right here. Pop that off. There you go. And if you'll look, you'll see duct tape on this thing. At one time, this duct tape was all labeled where these wiring harnesses go. Unlike some of my friends that I talked to online, this is my first LS. I had no idea what half of these parts were, where they go, where they clip on, and I just learned from. I mean, I disconnected a whole bunch of crap about 1.5 years ago, snatched this motor out and rebuilt it. You know, wanted to teach myself. And while I had it apart, everything went way cheaper than I expected. There were certain parts that I bought that I didn't need. So I ordered the Truck Norris camshaft while I had it apart. Put the Truck Norris in it, and here we go. That's the start. My buddy Blue Collar says all it takes is one thing. Once you do a cold air intake, it's a race car. Of course, you know, is this a race car? No. But I don't know if you guys check out Stapleton 42 or not. If not, you should check him out. He has a theory, his life theory. A race car, doesn't matter what it is. If you race it, it's a race car. So this is my race car. So after a little thought process, I decided I want to go ahead and take my fans out of the way. I've got to make repairs here anyway. So if you are considering doing the electric fan conversion on your truck, not a hard process at all. And to save you a little time, what you want to look for, you have to make sure you've got the longer radiator. I can't remember the exact specs on the radiators anymore. It's been a while since I did this. But what you want to do is when you look inside, if your radiator goes to these outside bolt holes, then you've got the big radiator. If it goes to the smaller bolt holes in the center, you've got the smaller. So you do need the bigger radiator. Well, if you want to do just the plain Jane conversion, back factory style, like 05 style, you need the bigger radiator. Now, do you have to do it that way? Absolutely not. You can use a radiator that's in your vehicle, and you can get you a nice little fan from the junkyard, zip tight how you want it, wire it up how you want it, and there you go. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted it to work with the computer, which is actually why I got HP tuners to begin with. These clips are kind of a pain to get to. So I may actually, there we go. And if you're wondering, can you mix those up? You can. You can mix them up. That will plug up backwards. Do that. But it will come out without disconnecting your hoses. And this thing needs to be cleaned up terribly anyway. So it's a pretty rough shape. Got that from a buddy of mine. Well, he became a buddy. I went to Facebook, was looking for some fans in the wiring harness. He had a set, went to him. He's actually the one who taught me into starting this YouTube channel. And so far, it's been pretty fun. I'll admit. Anyway, he taught me into starting this YouTube channel. It's been fun. I've met a lot of cool people, and I'd like to think that I've helped some people, at least give them a different alternative. I look at things a little differently than some. Alright, we're going to pause it here. I do know you can pop that bolt out right there, raise your hood up, put it in that bottom hole down there, puts it in more of a service mode. Never tried it with this hood, but can't quite get the hood all the way up in here, and I don't want to take it off. I am working by myself. My wife just called a plane to Minnesota. My kids are actually inside being good at the moment, so pop that little clip off there. I hope I've got the right size. I did not grab a paper towel. Dadgummit. Oh well, so I'm going to bleed some of this pressure off. Shouldn't be a whole lot of pressure on it. We got a little bit out of there. I think I've got the right one. Let's see. Put you back. These fuel rails might be interesting in the future. Let's see. You can pick these up just about anywhere. These quick connect release tools. I think I got a set of like 6. Harbor Freight for just a few bucks. You want to push it until you feel, you can kind of feel the clips push back. Then I like to pull the hose forward and then back it right off just like that. Did get a little more fuel out of there. No biggie, but kind of the trick to that is you get these ends put in. It's got these little clips on the inside and they force it out. Put that in there. It pushes them in. And if you'll pull the hose to you just a little bit, push this in a little more and release it, no big deal. If you try and push it in and just trying to start snatching on it, sometimes that'll work, but most of the time it doesn't. Anyway, fuel line's loose. I do like quick connects. I didn't at first, but they've kind of grown on me. Let's see. Start taking some of this wiring harness loose up top, so we can. I must have already loosened that one. Just don't remember. Oh, that's right. Uh-oh. Probably won't be able to get to that one with this long socket. That means I gotta climb my ass back out of here. It's okay though, I don't mind. So for now, I'll put everything to the side, try and keep up with it. I did have enough sense to bring a ratchet up in here with me. This right here is really just a cover. Keeps the lines, not the lines necessarily, but your electrical push down. And your factory cover clips into the back of it. Most likely this will not be going back on the truck. I'll have to make something. And not gonna be able to get that all the way up loose without popping back up. What can you do? It's basically loose. We'll pop the evap loose. Everybody has their own thoughts on this evap. Not a fan. I've seen a lot of different sites say, "Oh, you gotta keep it. You gotta keep it." Oh dear God. Think about all the cars that are out there running today that do not have evap. Pretty much anything carbureted. Evap really come around in the early 90s, and all it did was really just kill the power and kill the fuel economy. So, making these evaps at the factory do way more damage than this single truck could ever do. So, just saying. Everybody's got their own opinion on that. That's mine. I think most people in the government, they're just out to make money, and they're full of shit. It's just a money-making scheme right here. Now, fixing to reveal something to you guys. Yes, sir. That is duct tape. And there's a reason for that. There we go. When I was doing this truck, it was, oh God, 18 degrees in my shop that day. And when I started trying to pull things apart, that line just snapped. I'm like, what the crap? They were just kind of dry, rotted or whatever. So I pieced it back together with a piece of rubber hose. Threw duct tape on it. Is what it is. Ran just fine for nearly a year and a half. I am going to put my clip back on the fuel line so it don't get lost. See, it snaps right there. There we go. Snap that back in place. Now all that ring is just a retainer ring. That's all it is. Okay, so I didn't bore y'all with that. There was one more 10mm bolt. Took it out. That's free. Won't be reusing it most likely. Just toss that down there with the cover in case somebody actually needs that. Got a couple of lines you can disconnect right here. That one sits in a clip. Pop it loose. Comes map sensor right here in the back. Go ahead and pop that loose. Ew. I said, I'll pop it loose. There we go. Alright, so usually loose. Now you can lift this harness kind of out of your way. Give you a little bit of room to see some things. Go ahead and disconnect from the coil assembly. Pretty simple connection. They did make some things really simple on this truck. Now I'll have to move the coil packs in the future. Get everything loose, but hey, sweetness.
Are you doing a video?
Kind of. I mean, not really, but most of this stuff's going to be edited out. But I am showing people a few little things about this journey.
Got those from kindergarten, and I remember Mom putting it in that box a long time ago, and now it just disappeared.
Well, one thing I know for certain, sweetie, Mama definitely did not take those Easter eggs with her on the plane this morning. I know that for certain.
Maybe it's in a different box or something, or maybe I can make a plan and do something else. I don't know yet.
Okay, well, keep me posted. Yeah, that's my life. All right, so I'm fiddling with these little gray clips that holds the injector harness on. Separate it and then pop it out of there. Yeah. These little clips here keeps everything kind of snugged in. It's like basically a secondary so it don't come out. And when you go to put it back in, you slip that down inside and clip it up and it holds them in place. And then you just got the little basic connection down here. And let me see, there we go. Alright, so that's injector front, driver side. So once you pull that little gray clip off, it actually sits down in here. Just like that. Keeps everything together. Then all you gotta do is just squeeze that right there. And she comes right out. No fuss, no muss. Fact of the matter is, none of this is hard. Make it a little frustrating, a little aggravating. I mean, you really do have a bunch of stuff in your way, but it can be done. There's another clip out, no biggie. That technically is loose. You don't have to worry about your coil packs. They actually hook into this distribution blocker right here. This line hooked in there. So technically all the wires on this side are loose. Injectors are loose. Repeat on the other side. You do have a couple of hoses on the back. Got a couple of hoses on the front. A few things on the back of the intake, which I will deal with as I pull it off. I guess I'll go ahead and pop these intake bolts out while I'm here. And then I will climb down and figure out what's going on with these clamps there. I just don't remember what the deal was. I remember them being a pain in the butt. It could have just been something I was doing. Who knows? I caused myself a lot of issues. 8mm bolts on these guys. Alright, so, which I mean, I've already had this off and on twice. Because when I first rebuilt it, didn't realize that some style gaskets clip to the intake and some style gaskets clip to the heads. Didn't realize it. So I put the new ones, clipped them into the heads. I'm like, oh, nice. I put it back together. Everything snapped back together real pretty. But the bolts were acting kind of funny. I thought, well, what have I done? I thought maybe I had a wire tucked under there or something. pulled the intake back off. So that means I had to get all this mess back out of the way. Pulled it back off and realized I had left the factory gasket still on the intake itself and had the gasket down there on the heads. So, you know, it's something I learned. 2 different style gaskets. Yep. Almost 50 years old, and I feel it every time I mess with this truck. So I take it to the track. Take it to the track. Feel like I'm in my 20s again. Now, with my wife not being here, I will be able to sneak this intake and the other intake inside. Let's go ahead and flip it over, get all the gas out of the rails. I'll see the video on before you start doing any of the conversion on this to make this fast kit work that I got from Summit. Make sure and hose. They said hose it out. Make sure you get all the gas out. I am not about to hose out these metal fuel lines. I will let them drain. I may light them on fire and let the gas burn out, but I am not going to hose it out. If I'm wrong, so be it. So be it. I'm usually wrong, so it don't scare me to be wrong. It don't scare me to blow up. I had a nitrous backfire one time and sent my carburetor through my fiberglass hood. Not scared to blow up. And then the very next pass, after we rethreaded the intake, was the fastest pass it ever went. And then we downsized the nitrous and fuel jets from there because we twisted the frame so hard. We didn't have subframe connectors on it. Twisted the frame so hard I couldn't open my driver's side door. But good times. This stupid thing, you gotta feed it through the blah 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 blah. You do have a clip right here. When you take this intake off, I've seen people online do it some ways. When you take the intake off, you're feeding this through while you're trying to get it out. I mean, you can do all that if you want to. Man, I'm out of breath. I'm too old for this. You can do all that if you want to. Oh, this clip's broke. That clip's broke anyway. So that was a wasted effort. Anyway, you pop that clip back. Take that off. That's actually a brand new part. Anybody who needs this, let me know. That's your top mount evap solenoid. Let me know. You pay for shipping, I'll send this piece of garbage right to you. So intake should be free other than the hoses in the front. Let's give it a little lift on this side. Okay, so that one bolt in the back is holding back there still for whatever reason. Of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. It would be the one that's hard to get to, wouldn't it? If it was any looser than that, it'd be in porn. Ha! All I do is change angle with my hand. That's what she said. Alright, so intake's free. Let's see. Here's this stupid line, which will be going bye-bye. Gotta do it right now, though. Actually, I kind of wanted to do this anyway. Alright. So this stupid thing, I hate that stupid thing. Now, there's the new knock sensors. Okay. I don't even remember having to unclamp this. Yeah, you do. There we go. So, hey guys. So this is officially day 2. Taking a few days break from this. had an issue with a stripped out bolt, and I was able to deal with that. Didn't really cause a whole lot of problems. But, you know, my kids are on spring break, and they wanted to go out for lunch and go to the park and hang out and watch some TV and do some science experiments and stuff like that. So I took a little break from this. It is Friday, so I'm about to run out of time. I'll be able to work on this today and a little bit tomorrow, and then I won't be able to touch it again until probably late in the week. But I got the valve covers off, got the intake off, got everything kind of situated out of the way. So next steps are going to be to get these exhaust manifolds loose, get the rocker arm assembly off the top of both. And that's actually where I had a stripped out bolt on one of the rocker arms. And, you know, it is what it is. I knew it was stripped out. I had forgotten about it, but I knew it was already stripped out from reassembly last time. But, you know, it worked fine. Getting it off was a little bit of a pain, so I guess I will give my redneck tip of the day. Something you should never be without. Just get you a little fold of aluminum foil, and this is actually a Waffle House wrapper, but it works fine. And basically what you want to do, when if it's all the way rounded out, this may not work. If it's completely rounded out, you want to go down to the next size socket and see if you can make this work. But essentially all I do, I take it and I fold it. I fold it over the bolt in question, and then I take my socket and a light hammer and tap it down on. If it doesn't bite, then I just keep folding layers over the top of it, and eventually you will get something that grabs. And I was able to get that rocker arm bolt out. I was just going to snatch the heads off and, you know, deal with it once I had it on the ground. But it just so happens the rocker arm in question was right over the top of the head bolt. No matter how I twisted, I couldn't get access to the head bolt. So I gave up on it for a day and went and grabbed a short well socket. I knew that was exactly what I needed. Really needed a 12 point that worked better. But, you know, anyway, that's my tip of the day. If you have a stripped out head, you know, don't fret. Don't just immediately go to your grinder and grind it off or whatever. I mean, I was able to save the rocker arm. I'll toss the bolt, of course. Matter of fact, I'll probably just go ahead and get a new set all the way around, because this side over here is perfect. This side was done by hand. This side was done with an impact. And, well, it was really, really cold when we put this motor back together, and the bolts didn't fare too well on that side with an impact. But, yeah, be that as it may. I'm going to go ahead and snatch this rocker arm section off, and this one here, I don't think I've broke these loose yet, but I may have to move the camera. But for now, I'm going to take this side over here loose. And don't worry, I will fast forward through some of this, because I know this is not exactly exciting, but for some people, it may be exactly what they need. They may need a few minutes of this video to figure out how to get a fuel line loose, or how to get their injectors loose, and things like that. So that's kind of why I'm going through the whole process. This is how I learned. So as of right now, I've never not been successful with aluminum foil. Knock on something. But I actually built my very first car when I was 13. And of course, you know, it went crazy from there. It was a Ford Escort station wagon with a blown head gasket. I put up $100. My dad put up $100, and we went in it together. So for $200, we got a Ford Escort station wagon with a blown head gasket. And he said for me to respect my vehicle, I needed to build it myself. So I did. And we rebuilt that motor. Best I remember, it was a 1.6. So this is the early 80s Ford Escort. Let's see, we got a couple I didn't break loose yet. So that little motor did not come out. We left it in the car. And so any of you guys who know what it takes to rebuild one, I actually rerung it. New bearings all the way through. Now I didn't do cam bearings, of course. That was well beyond my abilities. But it got new mains and new rods and new rings. And of course the head gasket. And then I had to learn how to put one back in time. Now that was interesting. My dad got me a Haynes manual. He said, son, when you get hung up and you can't figure it out, I'll help you. But I want you to learn on your own. So, you know, he gave me tips here and there. Talked about line-up points and what have you. And on that particular motor, it had 3 different line-up points, actually. But spent all summer working on that particular car. And by the time school rolled around, I had my little escort station wagon to drive to school. Now, it was bone stock, and it was a crappy little car. But we took it a step further. I really enjoyed doing that with my dad. And our neighbor had wrecked an Escort GT. So I was able to acquire said Escort GT. And then the next summer, I spent time making a conversion. So it went from an automatic 1.6 to a 5-speed 1.8 liter with a long tube factory header on it. And that was the quickest little Escort station wagon around. And it just kind of blossomed into that. Or blossomed from that, rather. I've been modifying vehicles ever since. Trying to get this off in one piece. But it's kind of a stretch. There we go. Alright, so. Rocker arm assembly is loose. I mean, there's nothing to this stuff, guys. Don't be scared of it at all. Now you'll hear a gazillion different people tell you, make sure your push rods go back in the same place. Make sure rocker arms are all in the same place when you go to reassemble. I don't disagree with any of that. However, I have had some get mixed up in the past. Didn't have any issues, but rule of thumb is if you can, put the same rocker arm back with the same push rod. And I know a lot of people when they do camshafts, they do put hardened push rods. Myself, I don't. I want my weak spot to be in the push rod itself. I want that to be my weak link. I would rather bend push rods or break push rods than valves or rocker arms or pop holes in my pistons. But you know, it's just me. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. Of course, I can barely see. And these are torqued a little much. I think 26, 28 pounds is all it needs. And that's exactly how you strip them out. Yeah. Let me climb up top so I can get better at it. I don't like using extension on these when I'm breaking them loose. It gives it a chance to waller around. Get my ass up in here. I actually do love working on these trucks though. Once you get a few things out of the way, you got all the room in the world to stand. So I'm going to be dropping this extension off. And breaking these loose. All up close and personal. Deep well sockets and extensions give it a chance to kind of waller around a little bit. So the shorter reach that you can make, better off you can be. And I know there's I've seen a few videos in the past where they say you need to roll the motor over, get the pressure off each lifter, each rocker arm as you go along. Yeah, like I said, not a professional. This is a hobby. I'm a truck driver. That's how I make my money. This is more of a diary, if you will. And if people decide they can read this diary, get a little helpful information for what they're working on, then great. I'm all for it.
Dad,
Hey, bub.
can I play Ghost Simulator 2?
Yeah, go ahead. You can take over the Xbox for a while. I'm gonna be out here for a little bit. And that's my main man, Sealy. I've got my two youngest are Sealy and Temperance. Anybody who are fans of the show Bones will know exactly where those names came from. Just so happened to be mine and my wife's favorite show at the time. We really got into it. And so we've got a Sealy and a Temperance. My oldest, he is going to be 28 this year. His name is Jordan. Now, he's got a cool name too, Jordan Joseph. But my next one in line, I didn't name him. His grandmother named him. Still a cool name. I like something that stands out. So my next child, she'll be 21 this year. Her name's Stormy Gale. I tried to give all of my kids cool names because my name, Ralph Lloyd, it's a family name. But, you know, you can imagine being in elementary, middle school, what have you. Ralph Lloyd was not the most popular name. So, got a Jordan Joseph. Called him JoJo when he was little. His mother hated that, so that went away. But, got a Stormy Gale, a Temperance Lee, and a Sealy James. I just thought Sealy James sounded like a freaking gangster or a Wild West. Honestly, if I wasn't filming, I could have had all this apart. Didn't matter 3 or 4 hours, but I'm trying to document this journey for just that, and just one person. If this video helps one person find one bolt or one size or one little tip helps someone, then it's worth it, right? I mean, I'm never going to get rich off YouTube. You can, I've got like 1,300 followers, I think, or subscribers, or whatever you call them. There we go. Driver's side. And as you can see, these bolts are in much better shape than the other side. But that is what that is. I had help. And my help had their way of doing things. I had my way of doing things. Alright, let's slip back out of here. If I can get my foot out from under the motor. Once again, I do love this truck. We call it Sumbitch. It was kind of a gag gift. It had been sitting up under a tree for quite a while. The only thing they used it for was to... Oh, I still got aluminum foil down inside that socket, actually. From where I broke it loose. Check it out. And that's what it does. Builds up the bolt, or builds up the socket, whichever. Let you grab a bite on it. Now, if you got 100 pounds of torque on it, yeah, probably not going to work. But on something with the 20, 30, 40 range, not a problem. Okay, so I didn't film this part, mainly because I just couldn't get the right camera angle anywhere I sat. I was blocking it. So I backed the manifolds off, snatched that one out on that side. 13 millimeter bolts on top, 15 millimeter on bottom. Not a big deal. And there's the stock manifold for the passenger side. Of course, there's the intake already. And I went ahead and pulled this head, passenger side off, and it's actually, I mean, the head's in terrific shape. There was nothing wrong with it. I just have a set of CNC ported heads that I wanted to put on here, and it is still a 706 head like what was on here. It's got the beehive springs on it for the truck Norris cam. Says it's an 862 head, and yet everything on the other head says 706. So my understanding, the 862 and the 706 are basically the same thing. It's just made a different place. This one was made in Canada. I saw a few things that said made in Canada. So go figure. Anyway, So when you want to go pull your head bolts out, mine has the ones where it's got the shorter ones up front and then the longer ones down the center. You've got 5 center bolt and you've got 5 down the side, and then you've got 5 smaller, I believe they were 10 millimeter, down the valley. So, and to be honest with you, kind of a pain in the butt to get these heads off. I think it was easier to pull the motor, really, or damn near as easy. But anyway, I'm not going to bother filming taking the other side apart either. It's just, there's just no way to get a good angle on it. Anything I try to show you, I'm blocking with my head because I'm all up in that bad boy. But I mean, everything I see, the motor looks good. And looking at the pistons, it is actually a legit 5.3. Of course, I always assumed it was, but anywho, there we go.